Hey there, my creepy comrades! Welcome back to Midnight Chills. With Dead Signal today, I'm diving into a bone-chilling tale straight from the dark heart of colonial America. A story so eerie, it'll make your skin crawl. It's the perfect spooky fix for these scorching summer days. Trust me, even the summer heat can't melt away the chills from this one. So, grab a cold drink, find some shade, and let's get into it. Picture this, a sweltering summer afternoon, the kind where the air shimmers with heat, and I'm sitting under an old oak tree, piecing together this terrifying story. You know, summers when folks gather around, swapping tales, especially the old-timers down at the local diner or lounging in their rocking chairs. This particular story comes from a listener in rural Massachusetts who heard it from their grandparents, passed down through generations. It's a tale from the days when the British ruled the colonies, a time when superstition ran wild and dark deeds were buried under the foundations of grand buildings. Back in those days, the British colonial government wasn't exactly focused on the well-being of the locals. Their main gig, exploiting the land and its people for profit. Farmers were squeezed dry, and the colonies were a goldmine for the crown. But amidst all that, there was something even darker lurking. An old, twisted belief that to make a building stand strong, you had to offer something to the earth. Something alive. Something innocent. Yeah, I'm talking about human sacrifice. Specifically, the chilling practice of burying a child alive to appease the land. Now, we all know this is pure superstition, a horrifying custom that belongs in the dustbin of history. But back then, people believed it. And that belief led to some truly monstrous acts. Our story takes us to Blackwood Academy, a prestigious boarding school nestled in the misty hills of Massachusetts, built in the late 1700s during British rule. The colonists and British elite wanted a fancy school for their kids, a place to churn out the next generation of well-educated loyalists. Blackwood Academy was meant to be a symbol of British grandeur, sturdy, elegant, and built to last centuries. But what lies beneath its foundations is a secret so dark, it's haunted the place ever since. The tale of Blackwood Academy. It all began in 1778, when the British authorities decided to construct Blackwood Academy in the lush, foggy hills of Massachusetts. The project was ambitious, a sprawling campus with stone walls, grand lecture halls, and dormitories fit for the children of the colonial elite. The contract was handed to a local builder named Ezekiel Crane, known as Master Crane to his workers. This guy was a legend in his trade. Folks said he could talk to the stones and build anything, no matter how impossible. But Crane was a hard man, with eyes that burned like coal and a temper that kept his workers on edge. He drove them relentlessly, barely letting them rest, eat, or sleep until the job was done. The British officer in charge, Colonel Reginald Hawthorne, gave Crane a tight deadline: 6 months to complete the school. Why the rush? A high-ranking official, Sir William Blackwood, was set to visit and inaugurate the academy, and the place had to be ready to impress. Crane agreed, but he warned that he'd need double the workforce to pull it off. "Hire as many men as you need," Hawthorne barked, "but if this school isn't ready in 6 months, you'll rot in a cell for the rest of your days." Crane nodded, his mind already racing with plans. Work began on an auspicious day, with hundreds of workers, locals, and laborers brought in from nearby towns, digging the foundation. At first, everything went smoothly. Crane pushed his men hard, using a mix of threats and promises to keep them working from dawn to dusk. They got 1 hour a day to eat, and that was it. The sound of picks and shovels echoed through the hills as the foundation took shape. Stone walls began to rise, and the skeleton of the Grand Academy started to emerge. But then, something strange happened. Every morning, the workers would return to find deep cracks in the freshly dug foundation. No matter how carefully they worked, the ground seemed to reject their efforts. It was as if the earth itself was fighting back, refusing to let the school stand. For 2 weeks this went on, cracks appearing overnight, undoing days of labor. Colonel Hawthorne was furious, chewing out Crane in front of the crew. "Fix this, or you'll answer to the crown," he roared. Crane, under pressure, started taking it out on his workers, yelling and cursing them for their sloppy work. One evening, an old laborer named Jonah, who'd been building since he was a boy, pulled Crane aside. In a low, gravelly voice, he whispered, "Master Crane, I've seen this before. This land, it's hungry. It won't hold unless you give it what it wants. A sacrifice, a child's blood." Crane's eyes flickered with a strange glint, but he didn't argue. He just stared at Jonah, his face unreadable. After a long silence, he sent the workers home early, telling them to return 2 hours earlier the next morning. The men were confused. Crane never let them off early, but they didn't question it. They packed up and left, leaving Crane alone at the site. Under the dim light of a lantern, Crane sat by the foundation, muttering to himself. He pulled an old dusty parchment from his satchel, written in a strange script. Rumor had it Crane wasn't just a builder. He knew things, dark things, about the forces beneath the earth. The parchment detailed an ancient ritual, one that promised to appease the land with a living sacrifice. Crane's heart raced as he read it, his mind fixated on one thought: finding a child to satisfy the hungry earth. The next morning, Crane made a chilling announcement. For the next 2 days, only he and Jonah would work on the site. The other workers were to stay away, under penalty of dismissal. The men were baffled, but obeyed, scattering to their homes. That night, Crane and Jonah met in secret. Crane handed Jonah a wad of cash and a bottle of whiskey, saying, "You know what needs to be done. Bring me a child by tonight, and we'll end this curse." Jonah hesitated, his hands trembling, but the lure of money and liquor won out. He nodded and slipped into the darkness. Jonah didn't have to look far. Living among the workers was a man named Samuel, a widower who'd come to the site with his 5-year-old son, Tommy. Samuel was a drunk, spending his wages on booze and neglecting Tommy, who wandered the camp dirty and hungry. The boy was an easy target. No one would notice if he went missing. Jonah spotted Tommy sitting alone, gnawing on a stale piece of bread. With a sly grin, Jonah pulled out a fresh loaf and a jar of molasses, waving it in front of the boy. "Hungry, kid? Come with me. I've got plenty." Tommy's eyes lit up, and he followed Jonah to his shack. Inside, Jonah fed Tommy until the boy's eyelids grew heavy. As Tommy drifted off, Jonah wrapped him in a blanket, carried him to the construction site, and hid him in an empty water barrel. The boy woke up hours later, screaming and banging on the barrel's sides, but the thick wood muffled his cries. No one was around to hear him, except Jonah, who sat nearby, smoking and waiting for Crane. As night fell, Crane arrived with a sack of ritual supplies: red ochre, herbs, and candles. Together, he and Jonah dug a deep pit in the foundation. They sprinkled the ochre and lit 4 candles at the pit's corners. Jonah dragged Tommy, now weak and dazed from being trapped in the barrel, to the pit. Crane placed a garland of wildflowers around the boy's neck and smeared red ochre on his forehead. Then, covering Tommy's face with a black cloth, they lowered him into the pit. The boy barely stirred as they shoveled dirt over him, burying him alive. Crane laid bricks over the spot and ordered Jonah to cover them with lime. "Tell the men tomorrow this section is off limits," Crane said coldly. Jonah nodded, his hands shaking. The next morning, the workers returned, unaware of the horror beneath their feet. Crane was there, but something about him had changed. His eyes were hollow, his face pale, like the life had been sucked out of him. Jonah, too, was a wreck, jumpy, silent, and haunted. Crane barked orders, warning everyone to avoid the lime-covered section, calling it the cornerstone of the foundation. The workers obeyed, and to their shock, the cracks stopped appearing. The ground held firm, as if satisfied. The school's construction sped up, and within months, Blackwood Academy stood tall, ready for its grand opening in 1779. The haunting begins. The academy opened with fanfare, named after Sir William Blackwood himself. Wealthy British families and local gentry sent their kids to study in its pristine halls. On the surface, everything was perfect. Lush grounds, modern classrooms, and top-notch teachers. But beneath the polished exterior, something was wrong. The air felt heavy, oppressive, like the building itself was watching. It started small. A student named Henry woke up screaming one night, claiming a boy had called to him from under the floor, begging to be let out. He said he was cold, trapped in the dirt, Henry sobbed. The staff dismissed it as a nightmare. But then another boy, James, heard footsteps in the dorm's hallway at night, followed by faint sobbing. Soon, more students reported strange things. Shadows moving in the corners, cold spots in the east wing where the foundation had been laid, and whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. The east wing became a problem. Kids who ventured there came back pale and trembling, complaining of freezing cold and a sense of being watched. When the staff sent a groundskeeper, Amos, to check it out, he returned in a panic, babbling about a shadow boy with bleeding eyes staring at him from the walls. The school's headmaster, a stern man named Mr. Langley, tried to investigate the East Wing himself one night. He was never seen again. The official story: he'd left for England unexpectedly, but the staff whispered he'd been taken by something in the school. Despite the incidents, Blackwood Academy couldn't be shut down. It was too prestigious, too important to the British elite. So, the school carried on, even as students and staff dwindled, too scared to stay. By the time the American Revolution ended and the colonies gained independence, the school transitioned to a private academy for wealthy American families. But the hauntings never stopped. The modern haunting fast, forward to 1985. Blackwood Academy is now a public high school, but its dark history lingers. Enter Sarah Bennett, a 28-year-old history teacher fresh out of grad school, hired to teach at the academy. Sarah's a skeptic, brushing off the local legends about the cursed school as small-town gossip. But on her first night in the faculty dorm, she's woken by a faint tapping from beneath her room. Thinking it's a loose pipe, she ignores it, until she hears a child's voice whispering, "Let me out." Sarah investigates, sneaking into the school's old library, a dusty room sealed off years ago. There, she finds a crumbling journal hidden in a locked box. The journal, written by Ezekiel Crane, confesses to the sacrifice of a boy named Tommy to satisfy the earth. Sarah's blood runs cold as she reads the final entry. He only said one thing before we buried him. "I'm scared. I want to go home." The next day, a student named Emily goes missing. Her classmates say she was seen walking toward the East Wing at midnight, following a boy no one recognized. Sarah, now convinced the school is haunted, teams up with the school janitor, Mike, to find Emily. They discover a hidden chamber beneath the East Wing, sealed with a stone door. Inside, they find Emily, unconscious but alive, next to a small tin toy covered in dirt. As they carry her out, Sarah sees a shadowy figure, a boy with hollow eyes and a tear-streaked face. He whispers, "Don't leave me." Sarah promises, "I'll set you free, Tommy." With the help of a local priest, Sarah organizes a ritual to cleanse the chamber. As the candles burn and prayers are said, a soft breeze fills the room, and Sarah feels a weight lift. That night, she dreams of Tommy, smiling in clean clothes, saying, "I'm not scared anymore. I'm free." The next morning, she finds tiny footprints in the dew outside her window. Tommy's final goodbye. Closing thoughts, and there you have it, folks. The chilling tale of Blackwood Academy, where a dark ritual left a restless spirit trapped for centuries. Stories like this remind us how fear and superstition can lead to unspeakable acts, leaving scars that linger long after. I've heard whispers of similar tales from old forts and mansions across the states. Sacrifices made to bless the land. No proof, of course, just stories passed down like this one. What do you think? Creepy, right? Drop a comment below and let me know if you've heard any haunted school stories in your neck of the woods. And a big shout out to our listeners. Jake from Boston, Maria from Chicago, Tyler from Austin, Priya from Seattle, and Ahmed from New York. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, stay spooky and watch out for those shadows in the night. This is Dead Signal signing off.